we've normalized baby mama, baby daddy drama, and that's not how it was supposed to be. And
Yeah,
I
amen.
told somebody, I know people like, yeah, I'm gonna just have a kid. I don't even care about the marriage. I'm just gonna get, have a kid. I don't even worry about all that. You gonna get the baby mama that's got a new boyfriend, new husband who don't like you. Then you gonna have to be going to court all the time trying to fight that because you just wanted to have a baby because you was getting older. Now you got a drama and unnecessary warfare you didn't have to go through.
Not,
So go ahead.
yeah, not just that, right? But you're bringing your child into that, right? And as soon as yeah, I don't have any children, but I love children, and as soon as you bring that child into the world, you are second place now.
What's up, y'all? So, look, let me just go ahead and keep it short with you. Did you know that as of 2024, the United States has a literacy problem? 21% of adults cannot read, and 54% of them have been recorded and it has been documented read below a sixth grade level. That is a catastrophe. But that's where I step in. Now, I'm not going to teach the grown folks how to read and write. However, P.S.A, the ghostwriting solution, has now a new package. It's called the Literacy Liftoff, and it caters to 9th through 12th graders who struggle with reading, writing, and comprehension. This new tutoring service will offer vocabulary skills, teaching students how to literally write from the bottom, literally teaching them how to do an introduction paragraph, how to do a hook, how to do a conclusion, how to add a little razzle dazzle, and how to add their own personal touch to it. Okay. Now, you know what you're saying. Well, that's what they go to school for. Absolutely. But as an ex-teacher, the teachers just don't have time. So this program has 3 different packages from 3 different sets of hours that you can take. So if you're an AP, a principal, the student who needs help, the parent of the student, or you just know somebody who needs the help. If you're in the Houston area, you can get in-person tutorials. But if you are not in Houston, there are also virtual options offered as well. So hit me up at my email, theprodigyperspective@gmail.com and or psathepodcast.com, and we will hook you up. Okay, what is up, everybody? We just keeping the ball rolling. I had no skips yet with this season. I don't know how long it's gonna last. Hopefully, we keep it like this because things been going pretty good. I like that. Took a minute to get on here because I had a coat on top of this, trying to like keep it like swaggy P, but it wasn't looking right, and it made my collar look like it was like somebody was chewing on it. So now we got that fixed, and now we ready to get the episode going. Now I'm excited about this episode because I think that in this society we think that what we enjoy and what we like, there can be a good and a bad. But what we enjoy and what we like, we think like don't nobody get us, don't nobody understand us. So, but I want to let people free people today and let them know that for everything you want to do, there is a community for that. All right. In some way, no matter how niche down, how out there, how far left you think it might be, it's a niche for that. So let's get into today's meme. The meme reads, shouldn't nobody feel left out at this age? There's community literally for everything. Inspirations for this week comes from a few places. Actually, I just got a devotional sent to me, and it talks about transition and loss. And I haven't read it yet, but it's definitely kind of goes along with what I'm talking about today. And it just talks about it is important that we acknowledge these loss and how to grieve them well in transition. So a lot of times when we're in a transitional stage, we worry about things that we'll lose because we gain a lot, but we also lose things too. And we kind of have to be okay with that. The inspiration kind of wild, but it's funny. Beat King got a song called We Outside, and I'm gonna get into that in a second as to how that correlates with what we're talking about. And yeah. So let's get into the first segment for today, which is happy hour. Now, let's talk about outside because in a niche community, we talk about being out like outsiders and being on the outside because you know what I'm saying. You may start your own community because you've been an outsider or an outcast, and we'll get more into that as we go along. But let's just talk about outside, especially as a young person. So when we think of outside, like we outside, what that mean? We in the streets. You know what I'm saying? You may be at not literally in the park. I mean, it could be that too, but you probably, outside in the at the brunch, at the spot, at the, you know what I'm saying? You doing that kind of stuff. And I had an episode about this seasons ago, but I want to just kind of echo that today. Somebody needed to hear this. You need to take a break from being outside. Now you probably thinking you wonder why your money the way it is. You wonder why your body feeling the way it is because you might still be working out and getting, and doing all that, but you wonder why you hurting. We too young to just be hurting all the time. And I hear so many people that talk about their aches and pains, and it's just like I just feel like that should come to close to 40, not close to 30. Especially when I listen to the older generation. And again, we get it with the food and stuff the way it is now, so that has a lot to do with it too. But yeah, we might need to take a little break from outside. So somebody needed to hear that today. So keep that in mind. Also, there are some other communities. We talk about communities. There are many communities. You know what I'm saying? One of my favorite communities is the ex-fat community. What does that mean? The people that used to be fat that's not fat no more. That's my favorite community. As the, you know what I'm saying, especially, I told people one of my friend, I told this to this dude, and my homegirl got a like, why would you say that? But it was somebody could argue it was a backhanded compliment, but it really wasn't because I said, oh, he's like he lost 100 pounds, and I said, oh, I love when fat people lose weight, and she was like, why would you say that? I'm like, it's a compliment. He used to be fat. Like what? I mean, he's still big, but I mean, you lost 100 pounds, and you went from, you know what I'm saying, and you still going down. So, and as somebody who lost 60 pounds has kept it off, I'm a champion that. You know what I mean? So I just want people to understand that. Now, with me saying it like that, could I've said it better? Probably. But what's wrong with? I mean, I'm not gonna say what's wrong with that, but I just feel like it don't matter. Like it's still good. You know what I mean? So there we go with that. Now, as the ghostwriting specialist, as I am, I have to plug, although it's the ads for it, I want to plug it here too. Again, my new ghostwriting package for busy professionals and busy professionals who are looking to pivot in their careers and or advance in their current career who don't have time to judge up their life. You probably know what that means. So the package deal offers giving you a new resume, cover letter, includes templates in case you need different types of jobs. Um, Redoing your LinkedIn to best stand out for the industry you're trying to go in and or the position you're trying to get, and even helping you through the application process. Because we know today in today's society, them applications be looking like freaking ACT questions. Like, why is you asking all this for me to come work and sit in the cubicle? What would I do if Sherry down the hall start choking? What that got to do with me doing some computer science? Nothing. But a lot of these questions require a lot of critical thinking. And you don't have time for that. But I do. So for those that need that service or you think you might, please reach out to the prodigy perspective at gmail.com and we can get that going. All right. So that's enough of my rant today. I have a great guest again. He has a lot going on. He's a superstar in his industry. He's someone who has a niched community and a niched brand. So we're going to pick his brain on that as well as get to know more about him. So let me go ahead and introduce him today. Brady, what's going on?
Izzy, what's up, man?
How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm stoked.
Yes, sir. So now, obviously, the YouTubers can see you, but for my audio people, can you state your name, where you're from, and what it is, and where do you live now?
Yeah, my name is Brady. I'm from Sheridan, Wyoming, and I live in Sheridan, Wyoming now. I probably spend about half my time on the road and half my time at home. So,
Okay, Road Warrior.
country.
So tell the people what it is that you do.
Man, I do a lot. That's a big list, but I think from the perspective of this podcast today, I'm a brand manager for our company called Go Fast Don't Die. And what that means is, to me, a brand is your brand is the culmination of every experience that your customer or your community might have with your company, right? With your name. So I try to manage what that is. I try to manage what we're saying and how it comes across and what we're bringing to people.
Okay. So doing my research on you, you talk about a lot about the good life. What does the good life mean to you?
That's a great question, Izzy. Also, I was going to tell you, I heard your ex-fat community. I'm a member of that community, so I like it.
Really? How
Yeah,
much did you lose?
I was about 220 pounds when I checked, and I don't know, I probably fluctuated somewhere in there before when I didn't check, and then later on, I competed in jiu-jitsu. I competed at 145. So
Okay. Oh wow. Okay. So you lost about a good
about half, about
75.
half of me, man. Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And see me, I'm trying to get to 220. So
Yeah, you going up?
huh?
You going up?
I'm going down. I was 280.
Oh,
So
really? Where you
yeah,
at?
I'm like 6'3" because I had gained a few pounds back and I'm working on getting that. So I've just now started that I'm like high 230s. So I want
You
to
look
get
good,
to
man. You looking lean?
I appreciate it now for sure. I was because my face, it was one of them videos.
Yeah,
My
no,
face was looking pretty big.
I know how that goes. I know how that goes.
No, for real. So good life. What does that mean to you?
The good life. I think we talk about success, right? We talk about progress and these sort of buzzwords that mean everything and mean nothing at the same time. And everyone's definition is a little different. So I love that. I love that question. I think that my philosophy is that we've all got a calling. We've all got something in here that's burning. It's the phone is ringing for us and saying, "Hey, pick up! I got your life on the line," right? And and that's different for everybody. But I think my belief about success or the good life is that we've got a calling. We've got something that we are called to do, and a lot of times when we think about the good life or we think about success, we think money, fame, power. Usually those three buckets are what come up for people. If somebody's got money, they say he's very successful. If they're famous, most of the time they say he's very successful, he's very famous. Or if they have a lot of power, they say he's very successful. And a lot of times, one comes with some others, right? Um, but my big belief is that there is no amount of money, fame, or power that can make you successful if you're out of alignment with your calling, right? And there is no lack of money, fame, and power that can make you unsuccessful if you are in alignment with your calling. Now, everybody's call is different. I believe that's one of what's so beautiful, about this life we live is that your thing is different than any other human's thing. So sometimes we get lost in like well, I don't matter. What am I supposed to do? I'm not some big shot. I'm not some famous person. I don't have a bunch of money. I don't have a bunch of power. I'm definitely not famous. And we think, we're just a non-player character, as they say. And I just don't believe that about a single one of us. I think the only way that you are being that thing is that if you're not picking up the receiver on your that's great. That's an actual phone. I didn't know.
Yeah, good. They got the props.
Now I've messed up, dude, because I don't know how to shit. I don't know. We have an actual phone here. It's amazing. Anyway, so if you're not picking up, right? If you're not picking up, and eventually, man, the phone stops ringing, and that's when you die. You know what I mean? Like you might continue to live for 45 more years, but you died that day when you quit, when you absolutely gave up, and the phone just stops ringing. That calling stops calling. And it will, So I believe the good life is when you're in alignment with your call. I don't really think that, I think anybody who is to say, it is this, and here's what it looks like, and you wake up at 4 a.m., and you take your ice bath, and you do your meditation, and you do your butt enema with your coffee and stand on your head and look at the sunlight. Anytime that you start saying like it is this thing and that's what you should be adhering to, of course, there are things that are universally good for people, right? There's
Yeah.
universally good things, but everybody's calling is a little different. So the good life is when you're in alignment with what you're called to do.
Okay. Now watch this. So could you take us on a turning point when you felt compelled to leave behind the good life and embark on a motorcycle journey?
I don't know that I felt inclined to leave the good life. I think the motorcycle journey was more about the pursuit of what that might be. Um,
Okay.
I don't think I was living the good life. I before I kind of took off on a motorcycle, I was living I wouldn't say it wasn't the good life. I mean, I believe that it wasn't now, but at that time, I had committed to a lifestyle. I was that most people, certainly most Americans, or most people in the West are very familiar with. I started a business. I was working a job, working hard every day. I'd go home. I was married, got married young. Um, you know, White picket fence. Our picket
Mhm.
fence was red, but you know, we had one. And you've got your house, and you've got your life, and you've got your wife, and you've got your job, and you go to the lake on the weekends, and you go to an island once a year. I think that's probably pretty standard. A lot of people are going, yeah, that's familiar, right?
Yeah.
And so I had a couple businesses. I had some business partners. I was married. We had a dog, and life turned into a country song. Izzy, the my wife left, my dog died, my business partners split up. They had a falling out, and that kind of all happened not all at once, but it felt like all at once. It all happened kind of consecutively, and everything had kind of fallen apart. And I remember sitting there and just feeling like, well, this is it. My life is over. So what did I do? What is my story? Which, at the time I was 28 years old. I'm 35 now. But I was like, this is it. My life's over. My life as I know it, is done. What did I do with my life? What was my story? And I wasn't that proud of the story. I got married and had a job, and we went to the lake on the weekends, and we went to an island in Mexico, a handful of times. And there was some good stuff for sure, you know. But I wasn't that inspired, right? If that was the end of the story, if that's the story I got to tell at the end of my life, I wouldn't be that stoked to tell it, right? I wouldn't be yeah, it felt bad. It didn't feel good. And so I got on a motorcycle, man, and I was like, well, if this is where the story ends, let me just go out with a bang. I'll get on my motorcycle and I'll go just take off and explore. And that really was a new beginning, because you talk about niche communities. I started learning about the niche community that I was finding through motorcycles. And it was really special. I learned that everybody who's out there on the road, who's got a pack on the back of their bike. I remember going to I was in Las Vegas, and I think it was the second place I stopped on that journey. And I didn't really have an end destination. I had a motorcycle, and I had to get out of where I was at. And I met a guy in Vegas, and he saw my bike packed up, and he goes, well, who hurt you?
Mhm.
Outside this biker bar in Vegas. He's like, who hurt you? He's like, is that your bike? And I'm like, yeah, it's my bike. He's like, well, who hurt you? And I remember just being like, how do you know?
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I I had just signed divorce paperwork, and I was hurt. I was hurting for sure. And so I was like, well, how do you know? He's like, well, nobody packs up their bike like that and is out here by themselves with no friends unless, something hurts you. And we got to, commence to start sharing stories. And at that time, he said, I kind of told him about all the stuff. And I remember he said, you've been on a heartbreaker tour,
Mhm.
which made a lot of sense to me, because I used to play music. My dream when I was growing up, I played in a punk band, and that's all I wanted to do is tour. And all these, a lot of tours have a theme to them. And the idea of a heartbreaker tour that I had been on, like, yeah, heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak, just stuff going wrong, felt like it was never going to stop. Felt like, why did the world deal me these cards, kind of thing. You get down on yourself.
Yeah.
And I remember deciding when I was riding away from there, I was thinking about that. I was like, all right, the rest of my life is going to be a new tour. It's going to be the Heart Maker tour. And
Okay.
I want to get out in the world and make hearts. I want to serve hearts. I want to serve people. And I think service to people, period, that's the universal that's the universal piece that we're called to do. It's service to our fellow man. I really believe that, and that service can look so different. But anyway, I kind of called the rest of my life the Heart Maker Tour, and that's it, man. And that's been it's kind of the whole thing behind Go Fast. So we have a company called Go Fast Don't Die, and the whole idea of Go Fast Don't Die is sort of find your edge and live there. Don't die, don't overdo it, don't go out too hard, but go fast, man. Like in the direction of where you're called, go. And fast is a feeling. If you feel like you're living, if you feel like you're on the track, that's it, man. Stay right there. Don't die. Death comes in small doses.
Okay, good stuff. So unpacking that, you had what people would say is the ideal life. And I want to pick up on that because you basically were married, you had the dog, you had the picket fence, all that good stuff. And so many people are pushing 30, at 30, 31, 32, 33,
Yep.
and they feel as though I've never been married, I don't have any kids, I've something wrong with me. And the thing is, it's actually, and sometimes people who did get married young, which it works for some people, and that's great.
Yeah.
But this generation, I have a lot of friends who are either, if they aren't divorced, they're going through one,
Yeah.
or they are, they got divorced and before 30. And when you look at that, it goes to show you that when you try to rush ahead of God because of fear, because people get caught up in fear and they like, oh, like I said, I'm getting to a certain age, people dating somebody, it's like we getting older, might as well. They done showed you several signs that wasn't who you were supposed to be with. And you didn't listen to it. And so I'm not saying that's necessarily the case with you, but I'm just saying like you ignored it because you just so caught up in the time. And I want people to understand that, especially young men who feel like, man, I need to go ahead and just propose to her. It's been 6 months, might as well. Or, we already dated. I'm going to just get her pregnant on purpose just because I'm getting old, need to go ahead and have a kid. And it's like, we've normalized baby mama, baby daddy drama, and that's not how it was supposed to be. And
Yeah. Yeah. Amen.
I know people like, yeah, I'm going to just have a kid. I don't even care about the marriage. I'm just going to have a kid. I don't even worry about all that. You're going to get the baby mama that's got a new boyfriend, new husband who don't like you. Then you're going to have to be going to court all the time trying to fight that because you just wanted to have a baby because you was getting older. Now you got a drama and unnecessary warfare you didn't have to go through.
Not,
So go ahead.
yeah, not just that, right? But you're bringing your child into that, right? And as soon as I don't have any children, but I love children, and as soon as you bring that child into the world, you are second place now. You
Right.
work for that child. That's my big belief. I believe that strongly. That is your responsibility now. You need to serve that child the best you can. Now that it's like the time is up. When that baby shows up, there's no more time. Now you are second place. But before that time, right, there's preparation that can happen. And if you do no preparation, the same way if you went into a race and did no bike prep, you never rode, you didn't do any shakedown laps, you're not in shape, your bikes didn't change the oil on your bike, everything's going to blow up and you're going to get hurt, right? So what it sounded like there is, it's like, hey, I might as well just race the bike. Let's just go. Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody's dream is just to race the bike, just to have the baby, just to get married. What does that actually look like for you? What do you actually want out of that? What do you want that to look like? And you should write these things down. Here's exactly what I want it to look like. I want to serve and be served. Well, how do you want to serve? I want to serve in these ways. How do you want to be served? I want to be served in these ways. I have this to offer. I have this to offer. I want my life to look like this. I want to, and the more people could get to where and that'll change, right? Of course it'll change. You always make a plan and then you get punched in the face. That's what Mike Tyson says, right? And, but you can make the plan. You can say, here's what I'm looking for. If you don't have you go out on a motorcycle, we do this ride called the Magical Mystery Tour. And the Magical Mystery Tour, we don't know where we're going. That's why it's called the Magical Mystery Tour. We flip a coin and we go whichever direction. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not so great. And that's okay sometimes to be drifting and go figure out life and ride the wave you're on. But that's not decision-making time. And as far as marriage and having a kid, those are lifetime decisions. That's forever. That's a forever thing. And And yeah, that requires some planning. What do you want that to look like? And you should understand what that looks like. And for me, um, we didn't, man. We were young, we didn't know, and I think that's why podcasts like this are so beautiful. I hope that kids or young adults, like even like what a kid is now. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that we have lots of kids in their late 30s, right? Like that's the reality. And
Yeah.
that's all right. That's where you're at. And I hope people hear it and you go, hey, there's somebody here trying to tell you, pay attention. This stuff is important. And if you don't plan, failing to plan is planning to fail. And,
Right.
and it hurts, man. That sucks.
No, for sure, for sure. And also what I like what you talked about was the whole the bike tour, the heartbreaker tour, the heartmaker tour. It was just it really was a season I feel like a lot of people are in. They always talk about a chapter is closed in your life. I feel like that was a whole book. And I feel like it literally was the ending of one book, and you started it was in the same series, but that book completely ended, not just the chapter, the whole book, and you started a whole new one. And so that's kind of to where we are now. So we're gonna get to more into some in depth with that, but I have a few words I'm gonna tell you or say, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. There's no right or wrong answer. All
All
right,
right,
you ready?
I'm ready.
The first word is outside.
Outside, forest,
Okay. Second is outcast.
outcast, me,
Okay. Community.
culture,
Identity.
identity, self.
All right. All of these definitions come from dictionary.com. The first one, outside, not belonging to or coming from within a particular group. Outcast, a person who has been rejected by society or a social group. Community is a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. And then identity, the characteristics determining who or what a person or thing is. All right. So this is a great transition to the next segment, which is what does this have to do with mental health? And as I always say, people always ask when they try to ask, what does this have to do with mental health? I got the answers for it. But before we get into that, I have another question. So, as I mentioned, we talked a little bit about transition. So, transition from what you once thought was the good life to embarking on a solo journey, I'm sure it's been challenging, and we got a brief kind of overview of that. So, how did this life change impact your mental health, and what coping strategies did you find most effective?
Man, I found the life change. I found a community to serve.
Mm,
At that time, motorcycles to me was like the scene that I was in. Like, if you don't ride a Harley, three horns don't play with long necks, kind of thing. That Land Before Time piece. If
mm,
you ride a Harley, you can't hang with us, kind of thing. You go find your other whatever. And motorcycles had this stigma of like, well, this is about big tough guys and leather and bald heads and tattoos. And if you don't look the part, if you don't play the part, if you're not being this tough guy, um, you're not welcome here. And what I found was I was like, man, me being on this bike, I'm big ADHD if you don't pick up on that already, but I'm bouncing around all the time, thinking a billion thoughts at a time. And me being on that motorcycle, my hands are busy and my ass is planted in the seat, right? And I'm looking forward and the scenery is constantly changing, right? And it lines up the cogs in my brain to actually be able to sit with a topic and think through it. And it was so good for me. When everything's going wrong, you just go from one thing to the other and the other and the other. And eventually you're so anxious, you just panic and you just shut down. Motorcycles, riding all those miles. We got a shirt that says more miles, more smiles. And it comes from this idea that, like, the longer I rode, the more I could kind of sit this down on the plate and cook it and dissect it and figure out, where did this come from? And why does this piece hurt so bad? And why is this something I don't trust? And why didn't I see these red flags? And I could think through all these things over lots of miles and lots of miles. And I thought about, man, there are probably so many people out there whose brain and heart connects like mine do, that would benefit from riding a motorcycle. They would benefit from having this experience that I'm having. I'm also traveling the world. I'm seeing everywhere. I'm going to the Grand Canyon. I'm riding into Mexico, and I'm riding all these canyons and mountains and switchbacks and just beautiful country. I'm seeing these little communities, all of this. I'm experiencing the world in a very special way. When you ride a motorcycle, people who ride a motorcycle will understand this. But it's much less like you're traveling through an area and much more like you are participating in it. You are there. You're much more vulnerable, all of those things. And my thought was, there are so many people who don't see themselves because all they've ever seen is this big, tough biker guy. And if you don't ride a big, bad Harley, you can't sit with us, kind of thing. And there's all this sort of really unhealthy culture around this community. And there are so many people who go, well, that's definitely not me. I'm not this big, tough biker guy. I'm a skinny, articulate, intellectual, whatever. And that's probably not my scene. And they're missing out on this thing. And I said, let's do something different. Let's start a brand where we say everyone is welcome. And our second line, actually, the title was Outsiders. And so I appreciated that you brought that up. And that was the whole thing. It was like, hey, if this community has told you you are not welcome with them, you are welcome with us. Our first line ever was ride whatever. So it had a motorcycle on the front, and the motorcycle was scribbled out, and it just said ride whatever. And that was the whole idea. Everybody is welcome here. And whatever you are into, if you find a motorcycle that you think, yeah, I could ride that one.
Yeah.
We've seen hundreds, if not thousands of people who have gotten that brand message and picked up and started riding a bike. And then they plugged into a community that they were invited to be a part of, or they started their own. And it's beautiful. And people are improving their mental health. They're improving their mental health because community is a big part of that. Community is the soil where you plant, and the culture within that community is massively important, because it's not just about community. If it was just about community, you might go plant with the old community and you would grow, good tree, good fruit. It starts with good soil. And if you're in bad soil, you're going to have a bad tree with bad fruit, right? Where you're planting makes a big difference. And so, when we started this brand, a lot of people they didn't call it a brand. They didn't call it a company. They called it a movement. And I'd never, that's not something we ever said. We just said, like, hey, this is something we're going to try to grow because we believe in this. And now, our company, we're so much more of a mental health company than we are a motorcycle company at all. Most of what we talk about, as a matter of fact, we have a new shirt that just dropped us downstairs. Well, it hasn't dropped yet, but it says mental health matters right on the front. It says nothing about motorcycles. It says mental health matters right here. And it says destroy what destroys you on the back. And most of our stuff, if you look at most of what we've got, go to the website, scroll a little bit, you won't see much about motorcycles. You'll see a lot about mental health. And mental health for me is a catalyst, or motorcycles rather, is a catalyst to becoming mentally healthy and finding community and building culture that you can root in and grow with.
Okay. And see, it's funny because you already answered my next question, because the next question centered around you were seeking something more and how this realization influenced your approach. You just answered it. So that was good. But I think that's interesting because you said destroy what destroys you. And some people don't realize what's destroying you is that person you with. Now, I don't mean kill them. But what that means is you have to destroy the connection. And sometimes it's not even just relationally. Sometimes it's just friendship too. Sometimes it's a business partner. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's just the contact. I'm really big on who I'm connected with. And I'm actually think I'm gonna be going on a huge unfollow spree. And it's not because I want to be petty, it really is because I'm a firm believer that, I tell people all the time, and you think I'm crazy, but the spirit realm is more realer than the physical realm. And the thing is, when you're connected with people, even though you think it's just an Instagram, I'm very big on who's keeping up with what I'm doing. And some people say that's paranoia, and you think everybody trying to plan on your downfall. It ain't even that. It's just that I don't want to be connected to a lot of people. And a lot of people, and even my case, I'm still following a lot of people from high school and college. I don't talk to y'all. And it's just like, I really don't want to keep up with y'all. And it's not hate. It is just, I'm really big on you. I don't want to be that person who only follows one person. But you know, but in the same breath, I don't feel that I should have to delete my whole Instagram when I could just delete you.
Well,
So
there is certainly such a thing as a social diet, man. And you know, as you go on this, if you know you're on this weight loss journey right now, and you realize that what you put in your body has a big effect on what you end up having as a body, right? And in the same way, what you put in your mind has a big effect on what comes out of it. So if you feed yourself trash, if you listen to trash, if you look at trash, you know, if you're spending time around and I'm not saying the people are trash, but maybe their ideas or their mindset or their place is not good soil for you to be planting in. And if you latch on to that, you will go in the direction that they're going. If they're speaking negatively, you'll go, oh, we speak negatively. You know, that whole thing, like they say, you know, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. Well, that's 5 people, man. You better pay attention to who those are. You know, you better find some people who are, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room kind of thing. And dude, I really believe in that. I really believe in that. I think that's why, you know, you talk about marriages not lasting, you talk about relationships, you know, not working well. I really feel like people think they've got a lot of options now with social media. They can be
mhm.
into, you know, I don't know, we've got 160,000 people that are paying attention to us, and we, you know, I've got 40,000 people on my own social media, and I'm like, I don't know, yeah, I don't. There's no way I can keep up with 40,000 people. I don't need 40,000. I don't need 1,000. You know, I need 5 good buddies who really love me and believe in me. And I don't need, and even, you know, I love people. And through my travels, I've met so many people. And this is how I like to talk, Izzy, all the time. It's not just a podcast thing. I love to dig in and let's talk about, you know, what matters, right? And
Right.
and so I have these conversations with people, and they might not have another person to have a conversation like that. So I got hundreds of people who are hitting me up all the time, and I have to do a good job of managing my own diet and saying like, hey, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup. So if I'm pouring out more than I'm receiving, more than I'm keeping myself full, I'm not actually doing a service to these people. So yeah, man, a social diet is a real thing. And if you want to get healthy, most of the time, it's not about what you're adding in. A lot of time, it's what's about what you're cutting out.
All right, good stuff. So, for finding a community, especially one that resonates deeply on a personal level, can significantly align with and benefit mental health in various ways. Here are 3 points supported by reputable sources catered to this audience. All right. So the first one says, according to the American Psychological Association, engaging in communities that share specific interests or experiences can enhance self-esteem and provide a sense of identity. This is particularly relevant for young men who may struggle with identity issues or low self-esteem and looking for a sense of validation. The second one says, according to the Harvard Health Publishing, a social connections in the community can act as a buffer against stress and can help in developing resilience. For millennial men facing unique societal pressures, being part of a community offers practical support and coping strategies, aiding in stress management and reducing the risk of burnout. And the third one says, according to the Journal of Health and Social Behavior, participating in a community with shared interests can lead to improved mood and a greater sense of well being. This participation can counteract feelings of loneliness and isolation, which are risk factors for conditions such as substance abuse among young men. So that's the thing. I think that when it comes to finding a sense of community, a lot of times people feel like don't nobody get them. And even with a situation like you are a pioneer in your industry because you going to have went against the typical look of a motorcyclist or a motorcycle gang. Because when you hear that, you instantly think black leather vest, fat, but still look like they kind of got a little, you know, bald head, tats on the head. What are you doing here, loser? Throw you up against the jukebox, got a beer, and I see the whole
Yeah, you get
scene.
it.
So for you to look how you look, and it's like, who is this guy? What are you doing? And I think that's good to show people that if you can't find that community, maybe God has made you the person to create that community.
Sure.
And that I think scares people sometimes because it's like they think that's a lot to do.
Of course, there's not a person in the Bible who was called and wasn't scared about it. You know, you read through the Bible, probably. I don't know, but I bet you, do not be afraid is repeated probably more than any other line in the Bible. I'd be interested to know. I got Joshua 1:9 tattooed on my arm, and that's exactly what it says. I've commanded you, don't be afraid. And so it goes the same thing I said. What the good life is, what success is. You're called, right? And when you're called, dude, you're called. You're called. You got to pick up the phone, and you might get it and be like, "Hey, this is your calling," and you might go, I don't think so. No, thank you. Right?
But
And
it's funny. Oh, go ahead, my baby. Go ahead.
no, I promise you, if when you hang up and you know that's your call and you pretend it isn't, there's not a thing you can do out there. I have many friends I've gained over lots of travels in all different, socioeconomic or from all over the world, where they live all over the world. Some have money, some have none. I promise you, there's no amount of money, fame, power that will make you successful if you have hung up that call and went to go try something else that feels more safe. You've got to do what you're called to do, and yeah, man, I just believe that. So yeah, if you are called to start that community, that's what you're supposed to do. If you're trying to listen to a song and here's the song and you can't find one, maybe you're supposed to write it,
Right.
and that might be scary, dude, but I promise you the scariest thing you will ever face is reaching that moment where I reached, where I went, okay, this is my life. How'd I do? And you go, I don't like the story.
and too, I think about how I was actually reading through the book of Jonah the other day, which I never read through, and it talked about how God called him to do something. He literally ran the opposite direction, and then he went through going in the belly of the whale and going through all these. He went through all of this to end up still having to do what he was called to do anyway. So you ran and went through a whole bunch of extra unnecessary stuff because you didn't answer the call.
And people get confused, man. They think like, oh, well, I'm not in the belly of the whale, right? I might be running a multi-million-dollar business, making lots of money, driving a whatever, dude. And they think like, yeah, that's good. I promise you, that is your belly of the whale. If you are outside of alignment with your calling, what you're called to do, you're still going to have to go back to it. If you ever, either that or you die without answering, which is the worst. I promise you, that's the worst. You're still going to have to go back to it, and you're going to go back with less time. You're going to be older. You're going to be just as scared, right? If not more scared. Bro, you got to go in, dude. Go in. This is who you are,
Now, when we come to mental health, we talk about community as a form of therapy, and we also talk about creating safe spaces. So, what steps have you taken with Go Fast, Don't Die to create a safe and supportive environment for individuals to discuss and manage mental health challenges?
We have a shirt. We actually have a hat. I almost wore it on this podcast today. It's just getting done. It says safety second.
Okay.
And the idea there is safety is second, by the way, is not way down the list, right? That's right after first, right? That's way up there. A lot of people say like, hey, safety is important. I'm like, yeah, it's second. It's right up there, right? And I think safety can go too far. I think when if I prioritized safety, truly, if I said safety is first, I wouldn't even get on this podcast, because I don't know if Izzy's going to ask me something that's going to make me feel unsafe, right? And I think where you're rooting what is safe really, really matters, right? Because a lot of times we associate safety with comfort, and we get that so wrong. See this?
Yeah.
Comfort is a slow death. That's the whole thing of Go Fast, Don't Die. That don't die thing is about avoiding death in small doses, right? So when we optimize for safety and we don't go participate in the thing that we're called to be a part of, that's the least safe thing we can do in the long run. Because in the long run, we're going to say, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have taken this chance. I wish, if you go and look at what people are saying in like hospice, right? At the end of their life, like, how do you wish you would have lived different? They're saying, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have not worked so much. I wish I would have. All the things they're saying, right, are things that are avoiding safety. They're taking risk. We have another shirt that says risk happy. All of our stuff, man, is like pointing at live your life,
Right.
right? Live your calling. So as far as what steps, the steps that we've taken is to create a culture and community who is rooted in risking happy, rooted in taking the risk on their life's best story, because that's the safest thing you can do. And I think it's a Helen Keller quote. Says safety is mostly a superstition. The what is the quote? Actually, yeah, but it says the fearful are caught as often as the bold in the long run, which is true, right? We are all headed toward death. We're all going to die. So this idea that we're like, I'm going to stay safe until I die, versus I'm going to go answer the call, even though it's so scary, and then I will die, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're all going to meet up the end. What matters is the dash. It's that, when you're born and the year you're done on your tombstone, I was born from 1990 to whatever year I pass away, that little dash in the middle, that's that thing you're living for, dude. You're not pointing the beginning, you're not pointing at the end, you're pointing in the middle. And the scariest thing, the least safe thing you can do is to stay safe through that whole dash.
All right, brother. So you heard it here first. Don't play it safe because it's just not going to be good for you.
It's not safe. It's a lie. They're lying to you.
All right. So let's go to the next segment, which is I challenge that. So before we get to that, I got this information that comes from faithisland.com, and it talks about community, and it starts first with several verses that align with community. But the one I thought that meshed most with this conversation was 1 Corinthians 12:25-27. And it says, there may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. If one member suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together. Now you are the body of Christ and individually members of it. So it says we won't always see eye to eye or even understand why people say or do the things that they do. But our feet have nothing in common with our hair other than the fact that they are part of the same body. That's the way it is in Christ too. It's okay not to be close to everyone, but it's not okay to not care about everyone and be willing to do what you encourage them, ease their pain, be glad for them and help them with their time of need and whatever that you can. So with that, I like that because even with your brand, even with this podcast, you know what I mean? Every young millennial man who suffers from who's mental health conscious and who suffers from making identity, not identity, but from who suffers from decision fatigue and who feels like an outcast, I promise you, 5 of them look totally different. And it's similar to what your group is, because I'm sure in reality y'all all might ride motorcycles, but I'm sure that a lot of people look different, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So with that, how does it feel to know that we all may look different, but we all have the same goal? Does that feel good to know, just to like, that your group is inclusive? I'll say that.
Of course, man. I think that anytime you're called and you say, hey, we're all just going to look exactly the same, we're all going to follow we're going to wear the same color and the same this and the same thing. I think that we are all born individuals. We are all so, beautifully unique. We should be celebrating exactly like that. We might be real similar to someone. C.S. Lewis said, friendship is born at that moment where you see someone and you go, oh, you too, right? I think that's beautiful. You're finding a place to stand together on common ground. And then you look and you go, oh, but you have this thing. Oh, and you're that. And it's a little different over here. And we learn and we share. And man, if it's not to share our differences, like what's the point of being different? Like, what's the point of having so many? You travel the world and you go, oh, you guys do it differently. And I think there's this thing where people go around, they go, oh, these guys do it wrong. And these guys do it wrong. And these people are living on the dirt. That ain't the way. And these people are this and whatever. There's so much to learn from everybody, man. There's so much to learn from everybody. And unfortunately, there's a lot that we don't learn because we tell people to turn their volume down and say, hey, don't be so much like this. Don't be so much like that, right? Because this is how you stay, quote unquote, safe in this space. And and that ain't it, man. That's not safe. One, again, that's not safe at all, right? To not show up as you are, as you're called to be, is the least safe thing you can possibly do. And two, you are called to be you. That's why you're supposed to. You're called to show up in the ways that you're supposed to show up. Izzy was called to create a podcast and talk to people and bring these stories to life and bring these stories to people. And somebody was called to watch it, and they're going to be watching it right now, and they're going to be thinking about that call. They're going to be thinking that phone that's ringing right now and they're not answering it, and they might pick up. And that's because Izzy decided to hang out with Brady, and they talked about it and they picked up on this, and we're giving our gifts. We are serving our fellow man with what we're being called to do, right? Which is to share stories, challenge people, all of this. So if we chose not to, right? And if we chose to just do the things that we were told to do, we wouldn't be doing this right now. We would not be serving that person who gets served, you know? And so, yeah.
So this is a question because we see it a lot in society, especially with social media. So why do you think that this society suffers from identity issues? And then the back door, have you ever had any issues with your own identity?
Oh man, of course. Yeah. I think we suffer because we have so many choices. We have so many choices of who we could be. And we are told you can be anything you want, right? You be when we're coming up, they're like, hey, whatever you want to be, you can be. Whatever you want to do, you can do. Now, I don't know that I believe that. Um, I I think when we think about what we want, right? Um, if that's not in alignment with what we're called to do, we should be figuring that out, because what we want is probably we're hearing it from an external source coming inside, right? Versus what we're called to do is coming from an internal source, right? And this is what we need to learn to pay attention to. This is where we need to learn to flow from.
I think that parents say that because it sounds good, because there's been times where they'll say, oh, you can be anything you want to be. I want to do that. Well, now I don't know about that. Like, so you just lied then, because you just said I can be anything I want to be. Now I tell you I want to do this. Well, no, that's not going to work. Well, what? Well, I thought you just said I can do anything.
Right.
So it's kind of like I agree with that. And it's like, it's a question to ask. Can we really be anything we want to be? Um,
The answer is, of course not, right? Now,
right.
but the question is, I want to follow that up with, the question is, we have to actually really check on, do we trust each other? Do we trust ourselves in knowing what we want, right? And who are we checking that in with? Because a lot of people are chasing safety. They're chasing a dream. They're chasing a reason to be relevant, right? Versus actually paying attention what they're called to do. And some of the most powerful people who are not in alignment with their calling, but they are choosing to be what they want to be, they're missing. And I think that's so important. I see people all the time who I'm like, man, this is not. You are so loud, and you got so many people on the hook paying attention to this thing, and you're excited because you wanted the attention. You wanted this story, but you're miserable, and you're selling snake oil to these people. They're not going to find truth in your message because they view your message as truth, and it isn't, because you're doing this thing that you thought you wanted, right? And you're not doing the thing that you are called to do. And sometimes it's like people go down a road and they think it's too late. It's never, never, never too late. Switch.
Now, might be a little controversial, and this has nothing to do with the brand. This is just your opinion.
Yeah.
So we've seen this is called what it is, a big attack on masculinity today. And what ways do you think that digital culture and online communities have reshaped the concept of masculinity for young men?
Well, I think it's shallow. What you can see on social media is literally as deep as a screen, so someone can present, I could go take a picture. I could go get oiled up and find some light and take a picture of myself just shredded in the mirror and say, I'm strong and I have no problems in my life, right? And someone's going to see that and go, Brady's strong and has no problems in his life, right? Now, if the lighting's not so good and I don't get my water right, like if I don't do that, all that stuff, which is most of the time, right? And I do have problems in my life, that's the depth that we're missing, right? So that the shallowness of that image that is heavily, heavily curated, and we run with like, okay, well, that's what it is. That's what the rest of the world is doing. And we're looking at inch. How many people do you know that you can show up for? You can check in on them at 6 a.m., 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 3, 7 at night, 10 p.m. And you know what they're doing. You know what they're up to. You know what they look like in that moment. You know what their struggles are. We lose that depth in community because we don't have those types of relationships. Most of our relationships are an inch deep and they're a mile wide because we got 100,000 followers on something, and we pay attention, and you'll swap some DMs and whatever. And we don't have these relationships where we go, hey, here's all my cards and I'm terrified, and here's me, and I'm insecure in this way, and I'm scared to death of this thing, and I do not feel like I'm good enough here, and I feel like I'm a complete imposter in this way. And if you don't have some relationships where someone's telling you those things, you don't have some relationships. You know what I mean? You got to find some people who are rooted in truth, and you got to find relationships that actually have depth. It's terrifying.
So that leads to my next question, which is really, I'm going to answer it. But are there times where we maybe should leave certain communities? Absolutely. Just really following up off everything he said. If it gets to the point where you don't feel challenged, you feel like you are the smartest person in the group. If you feel like, everybody, all they want to do is smoke weed and sit around all day, you don't want to do that no more. You got to leave. If you are around a group of people where maybe you are constantly reminded of who you are, what you did, and it's like, I'm not trying to be that, but you keep being reminded of it in casual conversation and even in anger from those people, you have to leave that alone, because you'll keep you stuck. Because if we talk about identity, you already struggling to get yourself together and get your view of who you were called to be, and view yourself in a way of who you really are, but you're still caught up in what people are saying. So I think sometimes that when it gets to that point where we think of big communities, sometimes it's just a community of friends. Um, so and people don't want to do that because, as I said in the excerpt from the beginning, transition comes with loss. So if you didn't lose anything, you might have not have transitioned hard enough.
Yeah, it's scary, and people, that whole risk happy thing that we've got. What that is all about is people would rather be miserable and familiar than risking happy, right? They have a job they hate, they hang out with friends who don't love them and they don't love. Their social, everything in their life is mediocre, mediocre, mediocre. Pretty soon they just subscribe to that. They stop answering that call to be something better because no one's encouraging them to pick it up. And I promise you, if no one's encouraging you to pick it up, you don't have friends. The friends that you want are challenging. They should be making you uncomfortable. There should be, sometimes you're going to have fights because they're going to say, hey, you need to be doing this, man. I really believe in this thing for you. And they might be wrong. That's okay if they're wrong, but you need to be checking in on, are they rooting for my life's best story? Or are they trying to keep themselves comfortable by surrounding themselves with what's familiar? And people want to surround themselves with people who don't challenge them because they want to stay comfortable. And comfort is a slow death, right? Believe that. And you don't want to die slow. You want to live fast.
Live fast. All right. So let's go to the next segment, which is the weekly sabbatical. In this time, we kind of just reflect on some things. So looking back on your journey and the growth of your brand, go fast, don't die. What are some of the most important lessons you've learned about mental health and resilience?
We've got a shirt. We got a shirt for everything, man.
You got a shirt for, it's an app for that. Like I said at the beginning, we align because
Yeah.
the meme read, I said there should be no reason you shouldn't feel any, about a community. I said because there's literally a community for everything. And it makes you think of that commercial. It's like, we got an app for that. You got a shirt for that.
There's a community for that. There's a shirt for that. So I got a shirt that says peace in the process, joy in the journey. And that's it, man. you have to learn to listen inside and know what you're called to do and have the courage to choose it. And then those exact things, right? Peace in the process, joy in the journey. Because some people are like, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. So I deny joy. I don't allow myself peace, right? Those two things I believe in so heavily. Finding peace in your process, finding it's like, hey, I'm going, we're on the thing, but life's happening right now. So if you can't find peace right now in exactly the way it is, you will not find it. That is not a destination you'll reach. That's something you choose every day. And joy in the journey. If you don't allow yourself to see the small joys in life, you're going to miss all of them, because most of them are small, and the small things are the big things. Like we hear these cliche topics, and it's not until you really choose to get on that boat and go out into that ocean that you're called to go into, while everybody probably tells you you're out of your mind, you're going to die out there, you can't do it, you're not strong enough, you're not this, you're not that, there's nothing out there for you, and you go, I don't know, I'm called, I'm going. Once you get out there, you start going, oh, 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 you start seeing it. And it might be lonely for a long time. And you got to
Right.
check, am I really called to do this? Am I really supposed to do this? God, is this where you really want me? Because I'm sad out here. I'm lonely out here. I'm uncomfortable out here. I just wrecked my bike and I'm bleeding and I bled on my stuff and I tore my tent and it's raining. Is this really where you want me to be? And it's like, this is exactly it. You are becoming. You are becoming exactly who you're supposed to be. And then you can profess this journey to other people and encourage them to live theirs, because I just believe that, man. I just believe that so heavily, that we all have a call. We all have something that we're supposed to be doing.
All right. So, as always, I got my research and my notes. It says finding the right community can significantly enhance one's sense of belonging and overall well being. Here are a few ways to find a perfect community, as supported by insights from reputable sources. For those who may feel like, I want to find a community, I don't really know how to go about it, I feel like I'm the only one of me. The first one I'm gonna just give off the top of the dome and reiterate. You maybe have to be the person that starts that. So whatever that is, if it's you looking for a certain type of podcast, if you're looking for a certain type of YouTube channel, if you're looking for a certain type of business group, friend group, travel group, you may have to be that person that starts it. So that's the first one. The second one says, what I'm giving is explore your interests and hobbies. According to Psychology Today, engaging with communities that share your interests and hobbies can lead to more meaningful connections. So it says start by listing your interests and look for groups or clubs that align with them. The second one says utilize social media and online platforms. Harvard Business Review highlights the role of social media and talks about websites like meetup.com or even specific forums or groups on Facebook can connect you with local events or virtual meetups. The next one is attend community events and workshops. Forbes suggests attending local community events, workshops, or seminars as ways to meet people. And this include look for local newspapers, libraries, or community bulletin boards. The next one is volunteer for causes you care about. You can meet people that volunteer, and I've done it before. The Corporation for National and Community Service reports that volunteering is a powerful way to connect with others and look for these opportunities because you can meet others who share your values and dedication to the cause. So, one, would you like to add to that list? And two, what advice could you give to someone who is currently struggling with mental health issues and looking for a way to break free and start a new book? Because we ain't gonna say chapter, we're gonna say new book.
Yeah. Well, I would say the first thing, when I see people that they go, I want to start dating, right? They jump on a dating app, usually is the first thing they do, right? It's two things. They go on a dating app or they go to the bar. Those are like the two things when someone's looking for a date. And I'm like, and usually, about 10 minutes after they jump on that dating app, they know they messed up and they delete it or whatever, or they end up following through. It depends on who it is, whatever. But probably not going to find a lot of success. And then you go to the bar, right? And you're probably not going to find a lot of good success there either. You might find a date. Will you find a partner? Will you find a companion? Will you find what you're actually looking for? And that's the thing, is like, what am I actually looking for? Am I looking for a date or am I looking for a companion? Am I looking for people to be around or am I looking for a community? What's the difference between those things? And it really, like I said, it's about the soil, right? It's about where you're planting. And so my advice to people would be, well, what type of community are you looking for? I'm like, okay, well, I'm looking for honest men. I'm looking for strong men. I'm looking for, what, fill in those blanks and then go, okay, ask yourself, where would those people be? The person that you aspire to be, you probably want to surround yourself with people who are embodying that aspiration. So where are they? Where are they at? Go find that thing, right? If you're looking for a date and you want to find a gal who like loves the outdoors and loves hiking and loves this and that, well, maybe you should go hiking, right? Maybe you should go to the place that you feel called, and maybe you shouldn't make that your first thing. Is you should actually go hike and go, do I actually really love this? And a lot of times those things will happen organically and beautifully, and got to put you right square in front of that person when you answer that call the right way. And if you're looking for community, like for jujitsu is a massive part of my life. It's where I sharpen the most. It's where I find the strongest men in my life. It's where I become stronger. CrossFit is a huge part of my life. That's a community of people who have chosen a hard thing to show up for, a hard thing every single day. So I go there and I don't have to ask myself if I'm around people who are making hard decisions, if I'm asking people who are choosing the hard way. I know because I've put myself in an environment where those people would be. So just check the environment. Are you interested in somebody who would be on a dating app? Probably not, right? Maybe, right? And there are different apps, and I don't, I'm not attacking anybody like that, but just check the source, right? Just check on where you're going, because if you're lonely, you're not looking for people. You're looking for the right people. You're looking for the right community. Community doesn't just mean you're in a crowd. Doesn't mean you're around people. Like you said, there are communities that you should leave. There are people that you should disconnect from. Yeah, check what you want and go get that thing. You're not just looking for food, right?
Yeah, looking for the right food.
You're looking for meat. You're looking for sustenance. And so ask yourself, is where I'm going, if it is where I'm going to invest my time, going to pay off?
All right, good stuff. A lot to unpack, y'all. We dropped a lot of gems this episode. Let's move to the final segment, which is called Game Time. In this game, I'm calling it the community or an opportunity. I'm going to name a few different scenarios, and I want you to tell me whether or not this is the community, as in this is something good to be a part of, or it's just an opportunity. It's just something to do. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
The first one, which I'm sure you know the answer. Getting on dating apps to look for the next man or woman.
Yeah, that's a bad opportunity. Probably. Hey, sometimes it works, but
Yeah,
probably not.
joining a Facebook community of podcasters.
That's it. Yep. That's opportunity. That's a community. That's an opportunity for community, because those people are actually rooting in there, by virtue of them being on this thing, they have pursued wanting to be a part of something that's important to them.
All right, this one's a little tricky. Meeting somebody at the gym who loves to smoke weed, and you end up befriending this person and smoking weed with her and all her friends on a regular basis.
Meeting someone at the gym who loves to smoke weed is, if smoking weed with someone and her friends is in alignment with who you want to be in the world, then community. If that's not in alignment with who you want to be in the world, that's a weird opportunity,
All right. Meeting somebody new at your workspace, becoming friends with them, and you always go out to eat with them and talk about work. Is that a good community or just an opportunity?
Man, I think that really heavily depends on how you're talking and what you're talking about. I think that can absolutely be community. And, people, you have to remember that you can influence this thing. So you might go, some people, I've seen it, we have employees here. We've got a marketing agency here, and we've got employees, and I've seen employees go and they go, I got a problem here and I'm not being treated good here. I'm like, yeah, I'm not being treated good either. And sometimes that is good because you're saying, hey, me too. Anytime you're saying like, hey, I align with you, but you have to check the source of that. What soil are we planting in? Again, is this going to help us grow? Are we going to get better? And you can drive that car. Say, hey, you know what? I actually don't want to talk about that thing. I want to talk about how could we make it better, right? Let's not talk about problems. Let's talk about ideas. And so it really depends on the content.
All right, and the final question: learning how to ride motorcycles and finding the community of Go Fast, Don't Die.
What's that? What's the question?
I said learning how to ride a motorcycle and stumbling a part of the community Go Fast, Don't Die.
Oh, that's a beautiful community, man.
All right, good stuff. Let's end off with the question of the challenge for the audience. Think about a time when you felt like an outsider in a community or culture you were passionate about. How did you navigate this challenge and what steps did you take to overcome it? Remember, y'all answer that. That's a good way to end off everything we talked about, as well as for you to just kind of reflect on yourself. And just even if you don't answer it publicly, just something to sit and ponder and think like, when did this happen to me? Okay, this has been a great episode. Anything else you want to plug in? I appreciate you for pulling up. Anything else you want to plug or add before you go today?
Man, not really, dude. I love podcasts because we don't take the time to have these conversations. Just like I said, a lot of times, a lot of the interaction we have are very shallow, and so we get these opportunities. And I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate you, having a platform for people to get in and explore some depth with each other, so people can pay attention to some people that they maybe look up to or maybe relate to, and they can go, hey, these guys did it this way, these guys have these ideas, and they can plant in your soil. I think this is good soil. I think this is a great podcast. I love learning. I appreciate meeting you and getting to participate in this. So thanks a lot, man. If people want to check us out, they can go to gofastdon'tdie.com. I heavily encourage them, don't just go buy a shirt, because if you're not planning to live, wear it and live in a way that we hope that our community lives, we really don't want you wearing it. Go to the journal on that page. Go to the On Any Someday tag on there and just dig a little bit into what we're about. And if you're into what we're about, then you're welcome with us, 1,000,000%.
All right, y'all. That is it for today. Tune in next week to another great episode. P.S.A. signing out. Always remember, keep your head up like your neck hurt. Remember who you are. Make your mind up. Don't let it make you. And remember, I love us for